So this reading is going to be about what's going to bring about your next phase of spiritual growth. So how is that next phase going to come about? What do you need to do to get that next spurt of spiritual growth? Yeah, so we're going to get some guidance here. We actually have 4 linden pods. What is a linden pod? I'm not entirely sure, but I found some recently and they're pretty cool looking. They are these little pod-like things that come off of a linden tree. And apparently with some varieties of linden pods, you can make chocolate out of the beans or something that's similar to chocolate, and you can make coffee. I have not tried either of those things. I'll stick to the regular chocolate and coffee that I know that I like. But I don't know, but it's pretty cool and they're pretty neat looking. So we've got 4 options here. I like the number 4 because it reminds me of an angelic connection. To me, the number 4 really resonates with a connection to angels, so that's why I chose that. Just take your time choosing your option. This is a kind of reading, too, where if you wanted to choose multiple options, I think this would be okay, right? Because these are more spiritual guidance messages. So I'm going to let the camera roll for a moment, and the timestamps, of course, will be below. I'm also going to light some Palo Santo. I'll spray some clary sage spray. This has peppermint essential oil in it also. Sometimes I add extra things to my sage spray, and the last time I just felt called to put peppermint in it. Now, peppermint is an oil that can help if you're feeling kind of depressed. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get on into the readings, guys. All right, so those of you who chose linden pod number 1, let's just see what you could do right now to really amp up your spiritual growth. If you feel like your growth has been stagnant, or just for whatever reason, you're like, what do I need to do to move myself along here on my path? So I've got some little cards that I made beforehand. So the first one is appreciate the beauty and wonder of the world around you. So this is kind of like stopping and smelling the roses. We live in this beautiful world. There are all these, how many species of flowers are there? There are all these cool different trees, all these crazy different animals, different landscapes, and maybe you don't have the means to travel to different places, but you can still explore the wonder of the world in other ways. Maybe read about different cultures, go to an arboretum and notice the different plants there. Just be immersed in the world around you. Go to a museum and notice the beautiful artwork and really immerse yourself in the experience of living. Sometimes the earth can be a very difficult place. It feels, especially if you have a very gentle soul, there's a reason we incarnate into the earth, right? Because it's difficult. It's kind of like if you are trying to build up your muscles and create bigger muscles, you have to lift heavy things in order to do that. Coming into the earth is a heavy thing. We take on the heavy burden of existence in the earth. There are certain things that people just don't experience in the other astral realms when we're not in our earthly incarnations that we can experience in earth. And because of that, the earth provides us with these very significant spiritual lessons, but those lessons are learned through the burdens of earthly living. However, like, for example, warfare, evil, abuse, poverty, those kinds of things, we don't experience those when our spirit, comes out of our bodies when we die and we move up into when we go to the light. We hear people talk about that. Usually when people have near-death experiences and they go to the light, they don't want to come back because the earth is really difficult, like I said. That said, there are pockets of heaven on earth, right? And I feel like this is the message of being able to appreciate also that heaven does exist on earth. All of us, I like to think, are kind of like prisms, like those crystal prisms that the light comes through and it creates a rainbow effect. The light is invisible. We can't see light per se. Maybe we can kind of see when things are brighter, and things are lit up versus when they're dark. But when light passes through a prism, it becomes colorful and much more easy to see, right? We see it, the beauty of light, because it's refracted. I think that part of our purpose here on the earth is also to serve that purpose to each other, to be kind of like a prism. God's light, the light of love, the light of source, however you want to conceive of that, passes through us. And if we are a clear channel for that love, for that spiritual essence, for the truth of our connection to each other, if we're a clear channel for that, we make that love and light visible to other people. We can do that through creative expression, creating art. We can do that just in our acts of kindness to other people. So appreciate the beauty and the wonder of the world around you. Appreciate heaven on earth and see how heaven actually can be brought into earth and how it is, through the beauty of flowers. I like to think that flowers are kind of like a gift from God or a gift from our angels. Both, angels and God, we're all one. God is the oneness of everything. So anyway, appreciate the beauty of the world around you. Practice unconditional love. Now that is a difficult one, right? Unconditional love. What does it mean? It means you love someone no matter what. That doesn't mean you accept them crossing your boundaries. That doesn't mean you accept someone being abusive to you, but it's an ability to love someone even if they've hurt you, even if you see that they've made a mistake. Even if you don't like the way that they happen to be wearing their hair, like sometimes even superficial things can get in our way of unconditional love, right? Have you ever had that moment where you're like, oh, I really had a crush on that person. Now they got this weird haircut. And I'm like, I'm not so sure. So I don't know. We can all just practice self-awareness and say like, okay, maybe superficiality is getting in my way of unconditionally loving this person. Maybe the fact that this person hurt my feelings makes it very difficult for me to still love them. Imagine if you're a mother and your child, killed someone. Would you still be, we talk about a mother's love being more unconditional, perhaps, than any other love. That's not always the case, of course, in practice, but that's what unconditional love is, seeing that someone has made a mistake, even something really wrong, and still being able to love them. That doesn't mean that you condone their actions if they've been behaving badly. That doesn't mean you continue to allow someone to treat you badly. That's not what love is. Love is just, what is it? I don't know. If you unconditionally love someone, you care about them. You want the best for them. So if someone's done something wrong, even though they've hurt you, you don't want them to be hurt. You want them to be healed. Or, maybe it's tough love where you want them to understand their lesson, which may involve a little bit of being experiencing some level of pain or discontent, right? Because that's how they're going to learn their lesson. But when you love someone, you want the best for them, whatever that may be. So practicing unconditional love. It's not easy, I don't think. I don't think that it's easy, but I definitely see the merit in continuing to, again, it's like that analogy before of picking up a heavy weight. You start with whatever weight you can manage, right? So we can probably all think of people who it's easy for us to unconditionally love. Sometimes it's like a child who's dear to us or a pet, sometimes it's easier with those, in those situations to unconditionally love. I know that my niece, sometimes she does things that I don't like, but I still love her regardless, you know. And if she grew up and became a serial killer, God forbid, I don't think she would ever do that, but I would still love her and want the best for her. You know what I mean? So there are some people who we can practice that with easily. So focus on that, you know. That's a good way to build that muscle of unconditional love, is say, just really be in your heart space and feel what that means. Like maybe you know intellectually that you unconditionally love someone. So really feel that, really be in the moment and in the present with what that actually feels like. Learn to grow your heart even stronger in that sense of unconditional love for that person. And then maybe there are some people who we could more or less love unconditionally, but every now and then our ego gets in the way or whatever. So we can just, you know, continue to grow, like focus on those moments when we're able to achieve the unconditional love for that person. And in the moments when we can't, you can forgive yourself too, you know, unconditionally love yourself for your lack of acceptance at times, because we're all human. And then there are those people who it's extremely difficult to unconditionally love, either because they've done something so egregious, or they've hurt us so badly, or for whatever reason, it's just so difficult to love these people without condition, meaning no matter what they've done, no matter who they are, we still love them. Do it anyway. Practice anyway. Make an attempt. Again, it's all about building those muscles. So practicing unconditional love. Volunteer, engage in acts of service. So do nice things for other people just for the sake of making their life a little better in that moment. Not because of what you're going to get out of it, but just because it might make their life a little better. Get in touch with nature. So that's pretty self-explanatory, but it kind of goes back to the appreciating the beauty and the wonder of the world around you. I feel like it's very difficult to be immersed in nature and to not feel that sense of spiritual connection. That's true for me. It may not be true for everyone. And even though it's true for me, I know that I don't really make the time for that, being present in nature, as much as I would benefit from. But yeah, like maybe make a concerted effort to do these things. All right. So what else do we have here for you guys? From the archetype cards, we get Lover. So I chose to pull cards from this deck because I feel like this is more about appreciating and accepting certain things about ourselves. So with the Lover, maybe you have great passion and devotion, unbridled appreciation of someone or something. So we talked about appreciation. So just appreciate also yourself for your ability to do that. Are you someone who is very passionate? You can be very devoted, maybe to romance, or just maybe to noticing the beauty of the world. And then the Shadow is obsessive passion that harms others, self-destructive devotion. Have you ever done that? I know that I have. So again, this is back to practicing unconditional love. You know, maybe if you've been obsessively passionate about someone, which I think is generally where this comes about, you know, it's kind of like if you love them, let them go. Sometimes you just have to let go of someone who's not interested in loving you back in the same way, or who can't, or whatever the issue is. But, you know, having a shadow is not, I mean, we're all humans. When the light hits us, it creates a shadow, right? When there is light, there is dark. You know, there are these two aspects of existence, and disowning our shadow doesn't do us any favors. So part of this as well is just being able to accept the shadow, accepting that it exists within you. Again, it does not mean that you condone it or that you want to grow the shadow, but it's about understanding that this shadow exists, and it's up to you to decide where you want to go in your life. Your shadow does not lead you. Your shadow will follow where you go. Sometimes we can get really confused and start thinking that our shadow is who we are. We overly identify with the shadow. All right, so what else does Spirit have to say to us? Freedom. I feel like my feeling is that if you start doing these things here, you will start to feel more freedom. You'll start to feel that you'll really feel in the flow, like you can really just drop yourself into existence and trust that life is just as it is meant to be. And that is very freeing. That is so freeing, freeing yourselves and others of these expectations that things have to be a certain way. This kind of reminds me of a trust fall exercise, even though you usually fall backward for that. But you know what I'm talking about, where you fall backward and you trust that people will be there to catch you. This person is falling forward into life. Fall forward into life. Trust that you'll be supported, both by the people who love you in the earth plane and those who are loving you and caring for you in the spiritual plane. We also have the Shekinah, sacred self. Unleash your spirit, express your gifts, dance to the sacred rhythm of life. So what are your gifts? Have you been holding them back? Maybe you should express them. Let me read her guidebook message here for you guys. The Shekinah. And then after this, we're going to do a little bit of tarot, and then we'll wrap it up. This has been really beautiful so far, I feel like. Let me see if I can find her. I'm having trouble. Where are you at, Shekinah? Oh, because it's under the instead of S. These people are really anal with their alphabetizing. Let's see, this Shekinah. Okay. Okay, the Shekinah is the twin flame of the Holy Spirit. It is the female aspect of the God particle or creation energy. She is more of an essence than a being, but has the ability to show herself in ways that we will understand. She is acknowledged in the sacred teachings of Judaism and also called the Sophia of Christ in the Gnostic Gospels. She is a powerful female voice of spirit who is here to bring about equality and to help the world move on from the male-only image of God. She reminds us that God is all loving and all accepting. Whenever she appears in a reading, she points out the change makers, the love creators, and gift sharers of the world who are here to unite all hearts around the world. Don't feel the need to hold back or dampen your spirit. Yeah, don't hold back. Just go for it. Go into life. This is a time to celebrate. There is a feeling of dance and joy around you at this time as you fully recognize your splendor. You are a sacred being who defies gravity every day just by being alive and being a sense of balance and equality to the world. So that's really pretty. I like that message. I also kind of feel like maybe for some of you, even dancing, this has come up in other readings before. Maybe it's because I like to dance. When I was younger, I would dance in my bedroom and not let people see me. And then as I got well into my 20s, I learned how to dance in front of other people and enjoy that too. But dance is such a wonderful act of self-expression. And if you are disabled and dancing in maybe the typical way is not possible for you, you can still dance. You can still move, move in some way to music. That's really all that dance is, just moving to music. You don't have to. You don't have to have the best dance skills. It's just like allowing your body to connect to the rhythm of music. That's all that dance is. And I feel like that act really also allows you spiritually to connect to the rhythm of life, the rhythm of spirit. So let's wrap this up with, I'm going to do a 7-card spread because 7, I feel like, is a very spiritual number. Let's just see kind of like what your pathway of spiritual growth is, past, present, and future. Let's see where you've come from and where you're going, because it is always good to acknowledge where we've come and the progress that we've made, right? That's one way of enhancing our spiritual growth as well, just giving ourselves a pat on the back. Self-appreciation. I'm just going to do upright readings for this. This is the Everyday Witch Tarot, by the way. Ending with the Ace of Cups. That's very pretty. Make sure this is all showing up here. Got a bit of glare going on. Okay, so this is going to be your present right here in the middle. The present is the Page of Wands, which is a wonderful card of exploration. And I always feel like when I look at this card, this is someone who's choosing a path. They're choosing which path to take. And perhaps they are recognizing that in choosing the next step of their journey, that they're actually going to have to move away from someone else. Because you see this little cat, this cat has its own journey to make. A journey that involves moving in the other direction. So there's a sense of sorrow in parting ways with a person or a situation. But you're sort of recognizing that your magic is calling you in this direction. Their magic, their joy, their bliss is calling them in this direction. And we have this salamander between the two. And I feel like the salamander is just kind of almost like this spiritual presence, kind of like maybe symbolizing the bond between these two people, that even if they move off in different directions, there is just still this bond that exists between them that is meaningful. It's almost like whatever's happening in your life, whatever choice it is that you're making that might be moving you away from someone and moving them away from you, I feel like there's a sense right now of really commemorating this moment in time that brought you together. So this, yes, this is a parting of ways, but it's also like very ceremonious in a way of like acknowledging that this is a beautiful parting of ways, that this was a meaningful connection, that you happen to be on this particular portion of this path in your lives at the same time for a reason. And that moment of togetherness on this path where your paths merged will always be significant no matter what. And this connection will always exist no matter what. So that's where I feel that you are currently. Let me know in the comments if that makes sense to you. So let's look at the past. Let's see where you've come from. We start out with the Eight of Wands. Now, the Eight of Wands is generally a card about quick movement, opportunities coming about. Lots of things are changing. And generally, it's very exhilarating. But we can see in this card that it's almost a little bit overwhelming for her. Yes, there are lots of opportunities. Obviously, there's a lot of change. Life is not going to be the same after this, right? You know, if this is Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, what's about to happen? She's going to be transported to a whole new magical world. So perhaps in your past you experienced a time when your whole perspective of life changed. Can you think of what that time would be? Because Spirit wants to call your attention to that. You know, it's not good to get stuck in the past, but the past and our ability to reflect upon the past, we have that ability for a reason. I feel like you're being asked to recall whatever this moment is. There was a life-changing moment. It may have been scary, but it was also exhilarating. And you had comfort in that process. It was difficult, but you had a sense of comfort. And I feel like there was someone who you needed to provide comfort for in that process. Comfort too. For me, this is me and my Coco, I feel like. This is me and my Coco. Of course, there are cats on all of these cards, I'm pretty sure. In the Everyday Witch Tarot, which is something that I appreciate about them. Why do witches love cats so much? I don't know. Cats are just pretty fucking cool. Okay, so then we have the Four of Cups. So there was all this exhilaration. You were transported to this new world. And then what happened? We get the Four of Cups. You know, you wanted to offer something to someone. They were not in a state of mind to receive it. And that was difficult. And maybe you felt a little bit stuck because the fours can be a little bit stagnant, especially I think the Four of Cups. It's kind of like if you come across a stream and that stream is no longer moving and it hasn't moved for a while, it starts to like get kind of gross and stagnant. Sometimes we can get into this emotional place. You know, look behind her though. The ocean is behind her. The ocean is a constant influx in and out and in and out, but her back is turned to that because she's so fixated on this emotional connection with this person. but that emotional connection is blocked. So life changed. Your life totally changed. You wanted to connect with someone in a certain kind of emotional way, and that connection was blocked. You had your back turned on the influx, the beautiful force of nature, the beautiful force of life, that in and out, that constant movement of life. And then I feel as if you found your center. Maybe you realized that you can have this connection with this person, but also maybe pursue something that is actually going to be more nourishing to you overall, that's really going to support your whole health more so than clinging to this specific person or situation. And so now you find yourself here at this crossroads where you're parting ways. You're accepting that this is a parting of ways. And although maybe there is a sense of sorrow, overall, this is a very bright and colorful. We have all of these oranges and yellows and greens, these little pink flowers in the background. Even the cat who's leaving, the cat looks happy. I feel like maybe you're concerned about this cat. You're like, can this cat really live without me? Can this cat take care of itself? I feel like you're at this crossroads where you are trusting that you're going to be okay in this process of moving away, and that they are also going to be okay in this process of moving away from each other. And then moving forward, what do we get? When we realize that perhaps this, clutching on, this attachment to this one person hasn't been healthy for us. As we move forward, we start to make other connections. We start to find those new people who are meant to come into our life and support us. Maybe you're going to experience more friendships, more genuine friendships coming into your life. And I feel like you're starting to get more of a sense of how your life is divinely guided, how all of this process up to this point was so divinely guided. And I feel like you're starting to accept that life is as it is meant to be. Moving forward from there, I feel like your intuition is starting to increase even more, because you have created this spiritual sense of balance, of accepting both the light and the dark within yourself. So yeah, I feel like going forward, you're going to start seeing your intuition increase. And then also just your sense of love and self-love. She has this beautiful halo. It's like her love, her heart is so full of unconditional love, which we were talking about earlier, that she's just glowing. She can be this beautiful golden presence to other people. So that's what you're going to be. You're going to... And look, her cup is overflowing, and the water that's overflowing from the cup is causing this new life to grow, this little plant here. She's just so in her bliss state that she's not even aware of what she's giving birth to. But this little cat is drinking from that pool of water. The cat's being nourished by the way that her cup is overflowing. And this plant is coming into existence. And like there's this sense of magic, that just being able to love unconditionally is creating this sense of magic in the world. So guys, I felt like that was a really beautiful message. I hope that you enjoyed that. Let me know how that resonated for you in the comments. And I wish you many blessings upon your spiritual path. I will see you around. Bye guys. Okay, people who chose Linden Pod number 2, this is your reading. Just lit some Palo Santo for you. And we'll spray some more sage spray. So, all right, so let's get into it. So what is going to bring about this next phase of spiritual growth? What can you do to bring about this next phase? So I've got some little messages here. Drop the ego, keep dropping it. So what does that mean? What even is the ego? The ego is the part of our consciousness that tries to convince us that we are separate from other people. It separates us from oneness. So how does that work? When we don't understand that we're all ultimately connected, When we don't understand that we are inherently worthy of love, we're inherently worthy of our existence, that we don't have to prove ourselves in order to be worthy of love, to be worthy of our existence, then when we know that we don't have to prove ourselves, then we've dropped the ego. But when the ego is present, it tries to tell us, yeah, you're not enough. You're never going to be enough. You have to convince other people that you're worth loving. And how do you do this? Maybe you dress in a certain way that you think other people want you to dress, or you act in a certain way that you think other people want you to act. The ego also inspires us to be very fearful that we're going to lose love. So we always have to cling to it, lest it might be lost. We're so scared when we're in our ego. We're so scared of not being loved. When we can drop the ego fear and that need to be validated from an outside source, the need to explain to other people, hey, I'm really cool. I hope that you see that so that you can validate, so that you'll do things to tell me that I'm awesome so that I will believe it because I have trouble believing it. That's what the ego is. And when we get beyond that, we just know that we're lovable. We know that we are unique and that we are a blessing and that we're meant to be here, that we have a purpose. We know that. We don't have to shout it to the world. Although there's nothing wrong with acknowledging, hey, I'm pretty cool, hey, I have these skills and abilities, because the ego can work from the other end as well and keep us, making us dim our light. The ego can make us want to dim our light because we're afraid to shine, but we're all here meant to shine, and our shining should never take away from someone else's shining, and vice versa. So I guess that's my best explanation of dropping the ego. Drop the fear that keeps you thinking that you're not worthy of love. We are inherently worthy of love. We are inherently lovable. We don't have to change anything about ourselves to be worthy of love. We might still want to change certain parts about ourselves because we love ourselves enough to do that for ourselves, and because we love other people enough to change in ways that will benefit them. But we are already worthy of our existence. We don't have to prove ourselves worthy of it. So drop the ego, keep dropping it. And this is a difficult one. As humans, ego is part of the burden that we carry in the earth realm. When we're in spirit, have you ever heard someone talk about experiencing an ego death? I feel like mostly I've heard people talk about taking a lot of shrooms and had that experience. I've only taken shrooms once and it was a very small dose. But so they get to experience, I guess, what it would be like to drop the ego. But then you come back into your actual human self and you realize, okay, the ego's still there, it didn't actually go away. I'm going to have to actually do some work on myself to truly relieve myself of ego. But it's difficult, right? And I feel like this is one of those burdens that we take on when we incarnate into the earthly realm, is this issue of having an ego. And how do we deal with having an ego and being a spiritual being at the same time? So I feel like this might be also something that you just want to read more about. I'm just understanding what all of this is myself. I may not be able to explain it fully to you. Maybe there are other people who could explain it to you better. But if you feel like this is definitely part of your spiritual growth path right now, then explore what that actually means. What does dropping the ego mean? How can you do it? See what people say. We also have pray, talk to guides, angels, and your higher self. So I feel like these go together a little bit because our higher self is a part of ourselves that has already dropped the ego. Our higher self is not attached to ego. It doesn't have ego needs. It doesn't need to be acclaimed or acknowledged. The higher self is just fully present and, knowing its inherent worth. So maybe get in touch with that part of yourself more. You know, and the more often you are in touch with that part of yourself that already knows that you are this sense of oneness, that you are, you know, good, that you're good and worthy and lovable, then the ego isn't going to have as much control over you. But also being in prayer. So whatever that means to you, I put prayer, talk to guides and angels, because some people, maybe prayer isn't really something that they're drawn to, but if you believe in spirit guides, maybe just talk to them conversationally. Just, you know, that's what prayer is. It's talking to, you know, some spiritual entity or spiritual presence. Just expressing yourself to your guides, your angels, to God, whoever you, maybe even to your departed loved ones. Just being in conversation with spirit. Be in conversation with spirit. Ask for guidance, ask for support, or simply just express yourself like, hey, this is what I'm going through right now. Just thought you should know. Probably if you're God, you already know, but I just want to tell you about it in my own words. Don't overthink this. Smile. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory, but sometimes we can complicate the whole spiritual growth process, like even this dropping the ego. If we get too wrapped up, you know, and sometimes in what these terms mean, or what, you know, how do I know that I've dropped the ego and that kind of thing, it's just like, give yourself a little bit of a break here. Also give yourself some credit, because if you are putting your energy into this, then you're probably making progress, right? 10 baby steps in a certain direction will get you the same distance as one giant step. Do you know what I mean? So if you're taking baby steps because you're not really sure where you're going, you're still going somewhere. Progress is being made. And also just smile, like just maybe if you are doubting yourself or doubting this process, just take a moment and smile and like, well, this is a beautiful process that I'm going through. You know, maybe it's confusing. Maybe I don't always know what I'm doing, but this is pretty cool. You know, just the fact that I'm here and I get to have this spiritual experience in which I get to do this learning, in which I get to engage in these spiritual processes, just smile at your ability, at the very ability to do that. Smile at yourself. And then meditation and mindfulness. Now, I feel like some of you are out there groaning. You're like, oh, sure. Meditation. Meditation is the path to spiritual growth. I get it. I'm not the best meditator. I have been over the past few weeks making more of a concerted effort, because in my internship, I've had the opportunity to lead a meditation and mindfulness class. Now, I'm very open with the participants in my class that I am not an expert, that I'm learning through this process with you. But I do notice a difference, you know, and there is a reason why meditation has been a part of spiritual practice for thousands of years. And this goes beyond any specific religion or spiritual belief system. You know, meditation exists across the spectrum. There are so many people who utilize meditation in order to, experience spiritual growth or pursue spiritual growth. Meditation is a great way to work at gradually dropping the ego. You know, when we're in our head worrying about this, stressing about that, that's all ego stuff. But if you go into meditation and you can let those thoughts drop away, then at least for a moment, even if it's for like 10 seconds, you've dropped the ego. The more often you do that, the more and more your strength will be and your ability to drop the ego even further and for longer periods of time. Something that I remind myself and the participants in my class about is that, you know, people think that they can do meditation and mindfulness wrong. So what mindfulness is, and I know that's a big buzzword right now, And maybe some of you are like, well, what's the difference between the two? And I'll explain at least what I think the difference is in a moment. But when you're mindful, you're really just present with the moment. Your mind is present with one thought or one experience at a time. So can you meditate wrongly? Can you be mindful in a wrong way? Well, let's say you're practicing a breath meditation, and all of a sudden you're thinking about your grocery list, or you're thinking about that person that cut you off in traffic that morning, or whatever it is. And you're thinking, well, I did this wrong because my thoughts were distracted. Well, did you observe that your thoughts were distracted? Did you notice that? It sounds like you did notice that. You were being mindful of your thoughts. And then all you have to do is just notice that happened, and then bring it back to the breath. If you're doing a breath meditation, bring it back to the focus on the breath. You actually did that meditation perfectly, because that's what the process is. You get distracted, you notice it, you bring your awareness back. That's all that it is. And I'm probably going to use this analogy a lot through all of these 4 readings, but it's like building a muscle. So maybe you can't go to the gym immediately. If you haven't worked out much, you're not a bodybuilder, you're not going to lift 300 pounds above your head right off the bat, are you? But maybe you can lift 5-pound dumbbells many times in a row. So you should do that. Maybe you can find that you can lift more than you thought you could. But you're never going to find out unless you start. So meditation and mindfulness. So what's the difference between meditation and mindfulness? Well, I think that the biggest difference is that mindfulness can be practiced in many different ways, and meditation is a specific method of practicing mindfulness. So you can mindfully eat your dinner, right? So instead of like being on your phone, watching TV, thinking about all of the things that you have to get done before the weekend is over, and you're not really paying attention to the food, you kind of halfway notice even what's on your plate, that's not mindful eating. But if you're mindfully eating, you're very present. You're not distracted by all of these other things. You don't have the TV on. You're not on your phone at the same time. You're just noticing, oh, let me notice what these peas look like. I noticed a couple of the peas are wrinkled, but I also noticed a beautiful bright green color. What does the peas smell like? They smell like peas. They smell nice. And then what do they taste? It's mindful eating would be really tasting the food, noticing the texture, just being present with that process of eating that meal and not doing 10 other things mentally or physically at the same time. You're just focused on one thing at a time. That's what mindfulness is. And meditation is one way to practice mindfulness. It's a very useful way of practicing mindfulness. Okay. So let's see what else Spirit has to say to you guys. We have Femme Fatale. So the reason I chose these archetype cards for this reading is because I'm thinking that there are aspects of ourselves also in our path of spiritual growth right now that we can learn to accept more fully, right? We can appreciate certain things about ourselves that maybe we're having trouble appreciating. And we can accept certain aspects of our shadow, because our shadow is the part of ourselves that we want to disown. It's the part that we disapprove of. So we want to think that it doesn't exist at all. And we certainly don't want to think that other people know that it exists about us. It's what we try to hide. So the light attributes of the Femme Fatale archetype highlights the erotic energy of the feminine, opens your heart when your dependency is rejected. Okay, so I feel like what you need to appreciate about yourself is your erotic nature. Sometimes people disown that and they don't even recognize that that is a light attribute. Well, we're human, right? Eroticism is an aspect of human existence, and it can connect us to the beauty of earthly living in a very wonderful way. And then it says, opens your heart when your dependency is rejected. So we're all interdependent, right? We're all dependent on other people and vice versa. So what does this mean? It opens your heart when your dependency is rejected. So when you feel that you need someone and your need for them is rejected, that person doesn't want to be needed by you, they don't want to provide for your needs, I suppose the light attribute of this is having an open heart for that person, and also in general, even when you feel that you've been rejected. So are you able to experience that? The fact that this card is coming up, of course, this may not resonate for some of you, but I think for some of you, yeah. I mean, you are able to keep an open heart even when maybe someone doesn't return your affection in the way that you have that affection for them. So the shadow attribute, inappropriate use of sensuality, attachment to money and power. So have you ever used your sensuality to try to get your needs met, maybe in manipulative ways? Have you ever used your sensuality to try to get your material needs met? Or have you just been too attached to money and power in like an ego way, coming back to the ego? Whatever this is, or it could be for some of you, just maybe you have felt ashamed of your sexuality. It might just be as simple as that. You felt ashamed of your sexuality, or you felt like your sexuality existed to be used by other people so that you could get your needs met in return. Do you want to disown that part of yourself? I feel like this card is telling you you can accept that you've had these feelings, that you can accept that this has been your way maybe of coping in a world that has not been very kind to you, perhaps. Maybe you were taught, even some of you, maybe you had, abusive experiences that taught you certain things about your sexuality and your worth as a human being. So perhaps part of your spiritual growth right now is coming to terms with that. Maybe healing that within yourself so that you can be more loving and keep an open heart towards yourself and really know what your worth is and your dignity is, and that you're not meant to come into the world and be used or give yourself away to other people. So what else does Spirit have to say? We have health. So this is interesting. I feel like it's interesting that these two come up together. Like for some of you, it might be sexual health, It could be that your sacral chakra, which is your orange chakra, could need some focus right now. Or even the root chakra, because we get a lot of red here on this card. Just maybe the lower chakras. And especially I had this intuitive insight a while back that when we experience trauma, that the lower chakras, the red, orange, and yellow chakras, are especially impacted by that. They are really, they suffer the most. The lower chakras suffer the most. Now, this is just an intuition that I've had. If other people feel that that's not correct, that's fine. But, I feel like perhaps for some of you, focusing on the health of the lower chakras especially, but the entire chakra system as an aspect of increasing your health could be very helpful for you right now. And of course we have, she has these scales that are balanced out, and she has this fruit here. So this could also be a message that part of your spiritual growth right now is to be more mindful of what you take into your body. Are you eating foods that support your overall sense of well-being? Are you nourishing yourself? Are you treating yourself with love in terms of the food that you put into your body? And then we get Lady Nada. So I'm going to read her message from the guidebook, and then we're going to do a tarot spread, and that's going to wrap things up for us. And the tarot spread in reading 1 was very cool. It was very interesting, so I hope that you stick around for the entire reading. But we have Lady Nada, Heart Awakening. Awaken to acceptance and divine love. Give and receive in balance. And I just feel like this is very apropos. This really relates to this: open your heart when your dependency is rejected. So I feel like right now for you guys, your heart really is blossoming and awakening. We have all this beautiful pink heart chakra energy. The heart chakra is thought to be green, but I think sometimes it really resonates with a pink energy as well. So accepting divine love, you know, knowing that you're worthy of divine love, and so that you allow it in. You know, if someone tries to give you a gift and you don't think you're worthy of that gift, what are you going to do? You're going to refuse it. Oh no, that's okay. You keep that. But we are worthy of divine love. And so we have to, you know, practice acceptance of the divine love that is being provided to us. Let's see what the guidebook has to say about Lady Nada. Lady Nada is said to be another incarnation of Mary Magdalene, but even if she is, the energies are slightly different. Lady Nada is a mighty spiritual priestess of love who once existed in the land of Atlantis. She is the light force that helps us awaken our heart to the divine love we deserve, the light keeper whose essence allows the light within our heart to expand, revealing a true, real, naked, and vulnerable aspect of our soul. She brings an opportunity to experience divine love, whether through a relationship, adventure, or experience. The cave of your heart is opening wide for you to experience divine love. You have an opportunity to overcome past pain, heartbreak, and letdowns. This is a wonderful time to cherish and love yourself, and then allow yourself to be cherished and loved by others. If you feel love revealing itself clearly in your heart, have courage and move into a state of trust. You are reminded that when true love is present, when divine love is present, there are no obstacles to overcome it. Oh, there are no obstacles to overcome. It will be there, clear, pure, and real for you to experience. Your relationships are being brought into harmony on all levels of your life. Give and receive divine love with yourself and all those around you. So that was a beautiful message. So next we're going to do a 7-card tarot spread to kind of look at the past, present, and future of your spiritual growth process. So I think sometimes, you know, looking back on the past and where we've come from can be very helpful and really validating us and knowing that, wow, you know, I've come farther than I realized, because it's easy for us to get where we've been. So let's see. Oops. Let's see here. This is the Everyday Witch Tarot, by the way. I'm just going to do upright readings. So we're ending on the Devil card. So that's interesting, because dropping the ego was part of your spiritual process. I don't think this is a bad thing to be ending on the Devil card, but we'll just see where we get to. So this card in the middle, card number 4, is your where you are at in the present. So we get the 7 of Swords, and I love how the 7 of Swords is depicted in this particular deck. I always feel like this card gets a really bad rap. I mean, the 7 cards in general are very spiritually oriented cards. They're cards about self-reflection, I think. And this is in the Suit of Swords, which is about mental processes, using our mind. This woman, I feel like, is in like a secret library. I kind of feel like this is someone pursuing esoteric knowledge. That's kind of what I get from this. You know, so maybe you are pursuing esoteric knowledge, and that's where you are at on your spiritual path. And you're attempting to learn more about spiritual growth through reading or studying esoteric concepts. This can also just mean that you are being very introspective. Maybe you're going back into your unconscious and seeing what you can learn about yourself. You know, just really being very self-reflective. You know, there's this something that's like meditation called contemplation. It's a type of meditation, really, where we just think about something and see what kind of insights or light bulbs go off. You know, sometimes someone will read a devotional passage and then they'll contemplate that and what it means to themselves. But also you can just quietly think about your life and certain experiences you've had and what the meaning, you know, and just in quietly contemplating those, you can come to a better sense of what those experiences really mean for you, you know, why you're having those experiences or why you've had those experiences. So it's sort of like, I feel like you're understanding yourself better. There's a lot of self-understanding that's happening right now. And some of you may also be exploring esoteric spiritual knowledge. So that's where I feel like you're at right now. So let's look to the past and see where you've come from. Now, a couple of these cards came up in the first reading as well, but they're coming up in different places. So I feel like where you were at before was in the past, maybe you found a group that... a group of people to practice your spirituality with, or you had a group of friends and or family, but people who were very meaningful to you. And part of your spiritual growth, you know, was really, you know, this first card also, I think, is a place in your life where you did experience another kind of spurt of spiritual growth. It could be that you really came in contact with people who brought you a greater awareness of your spirituality in some way, or you just felt very loved by them and loving. You felt that sense of connection, so that, you know, maybe these people allowed you to drop your ego because they accepted you who accepted you fully for who you were. You didn't have to try to be cool enough for them, or, you know, you just felt loved and you could be your true, wonderful self. So maybe just remember that. Maybe there's a reason why that needs to be brought to your attention now. It could be that, you know, it would be a time to experience a sense of gratitude. Could be also that you're missing these people from your past who made you feel so loved and accepted and really in the moment in such a beautiful way where you felt connected with other people. And then we have the Eight of Cups. So something happened, and then the Ten of Wands, or sorry, the Eight of Wands and the Ten of Wands. We had something happened. I think I probably said Eight of Cups for a reason, though, because the Eight of Cups is about moving on from an emotional situation. So you had this beautiful coming together of souls, this fellowship, maybe a spiritual fellowship or just friendship that just felt very soulful, where you felt very connected. And then something happened. Life happened, maybe. You know, maybe you just all had different things that happened in your lives that took you different ways. People had to travel to different parts of the country or parts of the world. And it was very, it felt like a burden, you know, like it felt then like you were kind of in it alone. You know, before you had these people who were supporting you, and then you felt like you had to climb this mountain with this huge, you know, burden to boot. And you just didn't know how to manage. You didn't feel like you had the support that you needed. So some sort of support system you had in the past that really brought you a lot of spiritual growth, I feel like was lost just because of the natural changes that happened in people's lives. And that has felt like a burden to you. I feel like maybe right now where you are in the present, you're doing a lot of spiritual reflection on why this had to happen. You know, what was the spiritual lesson? What was the reason for this? What are you meant to be learning and doing, you know, because of this experience? So, and this is us moving forward into the future. So I feel like, you know, you've been kind of burdened. But I feel like in doing the self-reflection that you are doing now, you're able to eventually move past this anxiety and actually enjoy time alone. Instead of feeling like time alone is a burden, you're realizing that time alone is a moment when you can actually really take care of yourself. Do kind things for yourself. Engage in self-care. You have learned through the difficulty of having to struggle alone that, hey, I'm actually really proud of myself because I can meet my own needs. I can take care of myself. Not only can I meet my basic needs, but I can also create my needs for beauty and self-expression and intellectual stimulation, or like artistic stimulation. So that's nice. So that's what I see, the energy that you're moving into. And then we get the Six of Cups. So I feel like whoever it is that maybe you've lost in the past, the circumstances of life pulled you apart, there may be a reconnection with that person. Or you're just having very fond memories of them in a way that is very spiritually uplifting. It could also be that new people are coming into your life, because I feel like the Six of Cups can also be an expansion of your social circle, not just about someone from the past returning. Sometimes it can be an expansion. I feel like the Six of Cups is about the heart expanding in love and tenderness for someone else. And it's also about, like we talked before, about allowing that giving and receiving of love, knowing that, hey, this person's giving me this gift and I deserve it, and I want to give them, not because I want to manipulate them into continue to giving to me, but because I genuinely care about them and I want their experience of life to be wonderful, and I want to alleviate their stress, and I want to bring joy into their life. So it's like a giving and receiving emotionally that you're also moving into, where you're feeling more connected again. Maybe you haven't felt connected with other people for a time since you lost this sense of fellowship that you had in the past. And then we get to the Devil card. So I feel like, yes, you're creating these new bonds with people, but that process of maybe creating a bond, or like a bond with someone from the past coming back into your life, is giving you this sense of dilemma, this ego dilemma, where it's like, okay, I'm feeling the love. This is genuine love and tenderness. I really care about this person. But maybe that is bringing up thoughts of being tempted because you feel very attached and you don't want to lose that love. And you start to get into this mindset of, what do I have to do? It's the ego stuff coming up. The ego stuff is coming up because you're feeling emotionally connected to someone and it feels really great. And the ego is coming forward and saying, oh, you should be scared that you'll lose this connection. That's what I feel is coming into your life, moving into the future. The truth is, this is the truth. The truth is, love cannot be lost. Love is just love. You have love and tenderness for this person. That is something to feel grateful for. And that is a blessing. It's not something that exists to inspire fear. Like if you're in this place of fear, you're not really going to be able to experience this loving tenderness, right? The ego will test us time and time again to try to separate us from that feeling of worthiness, that ability to trust in love, right? So I feel like this is just a lesson. There's a big lesson coming up, and it can be a difficult lesson, or it can be an easy lesson. I think it depends on, how willing you are to drop the ego and drop those fears that are telling you you're not worthy of someone giving this sweetness and tenderness to you. Oh, someone's giving me attention. Someone cares about my emotional needs. You're like, oh, what's that? I'm not used to that. It's been a while since I've experienced that. Your ego is going to try to tell you that you're going to lose it, or that you don't deserve it, or that this person doesn't really care about you, that it's just all a figment of your imagination. So that is your spiritual lesson right now. And focusing on overcoming the ego in regards to knowing that you are deserving of love and that you're lovable is going to be one of the greatest areas of spiritual growth for you right now. We saw it with Lady Nada. I feel like we saw it also with the Femme Fatale, that, being loved is not something that we have to sell ourselves for. We don't have to sell ourselves in order to be loved. You don't have to, for example, maybe this isn't the issue for all of you, but just as an example, You know, you don't have to have sex before you're ready, for example, in order to continue to keep someone in your life. And I know that that message is gonna resonate for some of you. It resonates for me. You know. So anyway, and also it's about being comfortable with your sexuality too. And also understanding that you need to be mindful of what this other person is comfortable with too, if this is a romantic connection. You know, not letting your ego needs get in the way of understanding that they have vulnerabilities and insecurities as well. So that's what I'm seeing for you guys. I hope that you really enjoyed that reading and that you found it meaningful and helpful. All right. And I'll see you guys around. Bye-bye. All right. Hey, guys who chose reading number 3. Let's get started with your reading. So you've been I've really loved these readings so far. Hopefully we will continue to have a good experience here. I think we will. So first, let's see, what do you need to do to achieve your next spurt of spiritual growth? Acknowledge how far you've come. So sometimes, and whether it's with spiritual growth or any kind of area of our life where we're trying to improve ourselves, sometimes we can really lose sight of actually how much progress we have made. And so, especially if we're feeling like we've been stagnant for a while and we're not making progress, sometimes it's helpful just to look back at a time in the past when you know that you were not doing as well in your path to spiritual growth, or whatever the goal is, and just realize, actually, I have achieved a lot. I'm so much further along than I used to be. Towards the end of the reading, we're going to do a 7-card tarot spread where we're going to look at the past, present, and future of your spiritual journey. And when we do that, maybe we will do a little bit more of this acknowledging how far you've come. So what else do we have? Find your spiritual tribe. Be spiritual with others. So maybe go to some sort of spiritual service. Find a group of people to practice spirituality with, who you connect with. Or just, open yourself up to, talking to other people about your spiritual beliefs. And learning more about other people's spiritual beliefs and what works for them, that kind of thing. But, just, engaging with other people in a way that makes you feel more spiritually connected so that you know that you're not on this journey alone. Okay, be gentle on yourself and others, or be gentle with yourself and others. So yeah, there kind of is a theme here for you guys that maybe you have been putting a little bit too much pressure on yourselves to achieve some. Maybe you have very ambitious goals for yourself spiritually or in some area of your life. And, spiritual growth is not always easy. Maybe you're trying to improve yourself or be a better, kinder person. It's a process, maybe it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Sometimes maybe it's 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. In some cases, depending on what's going on in your life, maybe you're taking 3 steps back. It's okay, There's no wrong way to pursue your spiritual pathway in life. There's no wrong way to do this. If your interest is in improving yourself spiritually, growing spiritually, learning spiritual lessons, chances are you are achieving those things. Sometimes we just have to step back to be able to see a little bit more how that is actually working in our lives. But be gentle with yourself. I also feel like just engage maybe in gentle activities that are soothing. Maybe do some like gentle yoga, take hot baths, just do things that are nice for yourself. Be kind to yourself. And then we also have sing, paint, and dance, or any form of self-expression, making music, journaling, writing poetry, making vlogs on YouTube or something like that, or writing a blog. You know, anything you can do to express yourself. I feel like singing and dancing are especially strong ways to really attune yourself and align with the spiritual truth of who you are. It doesn't matter if you're a good singer or not. You know, I just feel like singing is such a beautiful way to channel spirit, to channel our higher self, and also dancing. But all of these things, just self-expression. I used this metaphor in one of the other readings, but I'm going to do it again because in general, I just really like this metaphor for helping us to understand what our spiritual purpose is on earth. If you think of yourself as being like a prism, you know, those glass or crystal objects that you hang in windows, and then the sunlight filters through them and it's refracted into a rainbow of color. Well, that sunlight, yes, sunlight is visible to the extent that it brightens things. You know, we can see it in a sense. But light is kind of invisible, right? We don't really see it. But when it's refracted through a prism, we see all of these beautiful colors that light is made of. And I feel like in many ways, especially when we're doing some sort of creative self-expression, or this can also be public speaking, especially if you're doing public speaking that is meant to uplift people or teach people or help them grow and that kind of thing. But we're kind of, when we do this, you know, think of a singer like Adele as being like a prism, you know, like she brings this beauty into the world that perhaps we couldn't access unless she specifically allowed it to come through her. She is the channel for this divine love, right? She's the channel for this beauty, this, you know, spiritual beauty. So all of us have that gift. We don't have to be a good singer. We don't have to be great at dancing or painting or whatever, any of these other things. But you, in some way or other, are like a prism to other people. You help other people to access God's love through allowing this love to shine through you and be made tangible and accessible. You know, giving someone a hug, giving someone a pep talk. You know, just allowing someone to talk to you and work out some things that are stressing them out. There are so many ways that we can be like a prism to other people. All right, so let's see what else we've got going on for you guys. Oh, I'm going to start with this actually. Ooh, we have scribe. So definitely I feel like expressing yourself. You have a lot of knowledge to share. You have a lot of insights, a lot of information. Maybe you can teach people things about spirituality or just about any area of life, you know. Like you align with your spiritual nature when you are using your gifts, whatever those gifts are. It doesn't have to be something that we would normally think of as spiritual. Hell, maybe you're a technical writer, but that comes in handy because you teach people how to use things that maybe they would not understand how to use otherwise, you know? So whatever your gift is, maybe writing people letters. Maybe you just really express yourself very well in writing. So the reason I use these archetype cards is because partly I think, you know, in our spiritual journey, it's important to acknowledge our gifts and really appreciate ourselves for what we bring into the world. I've actually had a lot of viewers in the comments to various videos I've done talk about how they are writers, songwriters, screenwriters, poets, fiction writers, you know. And for you, maybe it could be any of those things, but also could be someone who likes to journal or just write really yeah, maybe you like to express yourself through correspondence with people in really soulful ways. All of those things are very beautiful. Some people are just really good at using the written word to communicate. So communicating to others through words. The shadow attribute here is altering facts or plagiarizing others' work. So sometimes, another aspect of spiritual growth is really as well accepting our shadow. Maybe there's some shadow element related to writing. I don't know if it would necessarily be either of these things. If you're plagiarizing other people's work, you should probably not do that. You need to give credit where credit is due. And if you're altering facts, aka lying, that's also not very helpful. But it could be also that you're just using writing in a way that hurts people. Maybe you're using written communication to express hostility and put other people down. Maybe you're trolling in the comments somewhere in the internet world. So acknowledge your shadow, What I like to say is our shadow does not lead us. We decide where we're going, and the shadow will follow. So the shadow might be a true aspect of who we are. Is there anyone out there who's never made some sort of mean comment on the internet somewhere or other? I'm sure there are some people who can say that they haven't. But I think most of us who use the internet have probably at some point in our lives allowed the anonymity or the disconnection of the internet to really give us, this free reign to kind of be mean, you know what I mean? Or just to be very angry or argue with people in ways that we wouldn't do in person when there's not that sense of separation. So could be just acknowledging some sense of shadow in the way that you communicate in writing. And that's all it is. It's just acknowledging it, but also acknowledging the good, primarily acknowledging the good that you can do with your writing and focus on that. What else do we have? We have apologize. Okay. So it could be that some people need to apologize for things that they've said in writing to other people, the ways that they have expressed themselves. So yeah, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something you've done that's totally separate from this. But yeah, sometimes just the greatest gift you can give someone sometimes is a simple apology, It's like, I remember growing up feeling like there were certain people in my life who had really not treated me well. And what I always wanted, I just wanted them to acknowledge that they had done something wrong. And I think it was my sister who just made me realize, that's probably not going to happen. And then I had to accept the fact that it probably wasn't going to happen. And that caused a nice spiritual shift for me as well. So that might also be the lesson for some of you. Maybe the person you wish would apologize, maybe you have to let go of that because they may not ever do that. And, in order to embrace life more fully, sometimes we have to let go of those kinds of expectations. But because we know how meaningful it is to receive an apology that is due to us, whether we are going to get it or not, we should also acknowledge how helpful that could be to do that for other people. In 12-step programs, they do caution you, though, like when you reach out to someone to apologize, you have to kind of balance out, is this actually going to be helpful or is it going to cause more harm than good? There are times when an apology actually opens a wound, reopens a wound, especially if there's something trauma related. So you just have to be very mindful of people's boundaries as well. And if you're not certain, which you can always do, is you can apologize, write a letter that you don't actually send. And in writing that letter, you're still putting that energy out there. Or just have an imaginary conversation with the person and explain yourself. Well, this is why I did this. I feel that I may have hurt you in the process, and I'm sorry. It's as simple as that. We have one more card here, and then I'm going to do a tarot spread for you. And that's probably, it might be the most insightful part of the reading. I don't know. But so stick around for that. But we have from the Keepers of the Light deck, Faith. She's an archangel. Humanity and benevolence. Stay calm. Trust the good in yourself and others. See the light in the world. I think staying calm with this, acknowledge how far you've come, being gentle on yourself and others, apologize. I feel like that's been kind of a theme for you guys. Let's see what the full Oracle book message is for Faith. Okay. Faith is the archangel who is focused on bringing out our benevolence or our goodness. She is the twin flame of Archangel Michael and is on a divine mission to help us recognize that humans are basically good and aligned with love. Just like her name, she is all about faith and trust. She reminds us that the world has taught us to believe that we are separate from love, and that if we begin to see the good in others, then we will start to cultivate a loving experience of the world around us. Stay calm and breathe. You are a divine being of love who has done so much good in the world. You may be going through personal transformations and feel that you're not getting anywhere. But Archangel Faith is drawing close to guide you beyond the limitations that your ego or fears have created for you. You may be trying to work out whom to trust. First, trust yourself. When you do this and recognize that you are made of love, you will attract those who reflect that love and can enjoy true friendships and loving relationships. Know that good is here to stay. So if you find yourself, constantly surrounded by people who are negative or who are abusive to you, who are mean to you, who use you, first of all, you probably need to disconnect with those people until you can start healing yourself. But furthermore, as Faith is saying, focus on increasing that knowingness of goodness within you. Remind yourself of the kind acts that you have done for other people. You are a good person. Have there been times when you've seen someone in pain and you've reached out to support them? Sometimes we forget our goodness. And when we're not seeing goodness in ourselves, we can attract other people who reflect that back to us. So she's saying, be who you want to be around. Be the kind of person who you want to be attracting. All right, so let's do a 7-card spread here to see what the past, present, and future is of your spiritual path. This is the Everyday Witch Tarot. Whoops. There's one more shuffle. And I'm just going to do upright readings for this. King of Wands, Strength. 5 of Cups. 4 of Wands. 10 of Wands. 6 of Swords. And Ace of Cups. I think our first reading ended on the Ace of Cups. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be the middle card, card number 4, and this is kind of like where you are now. It actually seems to me with the 4 of Wands, you're in a good place. Although I've had this energy throughout the reading of you feeling like maybe you're stuck, the 4s are a very foundational energy. So whatever it is that's going on in your life right now, I feel like you are at a turning point, but this, whatever you've created a nice spiritual foundation for yourself. I see you having, you are called to find your spiritual tribe. It could be that you are already starting to do that and Spirit is just encouraging you in the process. So I feel like you are starting to draw to you people who are reflecting back to you your goodness and who are helping to support you in furthering your spiritual goals. And I feel like that's very wonderful. Although for some reason you might be feeling like you're stuck. So we'll see what else the reading has to say. Now, if we go back in time to where you were previously, we have the King of Wands and then the Strength card. I feel like in terms of spirituality, the King of Wands is someone who has a lot of wisdom, and they can impart that wisdom or teach that wisdom to other people. So in the past, you may have sought other people's wisdom, either by reading or maybe watching documentaries about spirituality, or talking to someone. Maybe you've had someone who served as a spiritual mentor or guru. With this particular card, I'm also seeing that maybe you have traveled to other places, and in your travels, you have pursued spiritual knowledge as well. So you're someone who has been definitely on a spiritual path, especially in terms of increasing your knowledge, increasing your wisdom, and either you're imparting that to other people or you are accepting that wisdom from someone else, maybe even a little bit of both. And then we have the Strength card. So I feel like whatever spiritual wisdom that you have acquired through your purposeful study of spirituality, you've been able to use that to really harness your baser urges, harness maybe your more destructive impulses. And also to work on your ego. I feel like the Strength card is also a card about really getting that ego in check, so that the ego fears and that the need for ego gratification is not so strong. It's not like it's not there. We still see this tornado brewing in the background, but it's sort of like your spiritual path so far has allowed you to know that you can handle any situation that comes to you, even if it's a really chaotic, even if it's a crisis situation. There's this feeling that you have the strength and the spiritual understanding to overcome any difficulty that comes your way. So that's something that you're bringing from your past. And then we have the Five of Cups. So we do have, like a sense of disappointment as well. It's strange to me because I feel like you are so spiritually strong and you've really been purposefully on this path, maybe even on the path in a more purposeful way than other people have been. Sometimes people are casually spiritual. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you are almost like professionally spiritual. Like you really dedicate yourself to your spirituality is what I mean by that. It's like you feel this sort of disappointment in yourself. You are not acknowledging how far you've come. You're not really acknowledging your spiritual accomplishments. Maybe you're not acknowledging your accomplishments in other areas of your life as well. It's like you're focusing on the negative. You're focusing on what you have not achieved. But what you have achieved is so wonderful and beautiful. And I feel like coming into the present moment, you are starting to, maybe you're getting validation from other people who are telling you like, wow, you have a lot of wisdom. Gosh, you're really spiritually evolved, and maybe that is building you up and allowing you to focus more on the positive than you have been. But I do feel like you're kind of someone who, because we're moving forward into the 10 of Wands in our forward moving energy, 10 of Wands, 6 of Swords, Ace of Cups. It almost feels to me like you are someone who, you kind of like you need a struggle, Maybe you're wondering, why do I always have to go through these difficult experiences? But it's almost like you draw them to you. It's almost like at some unconscious level, you're thinking, I can't achieve spiritual growth unless life is sometimes really hard. And sure, those really hard, really difficult moments are going to help you to learn. But if you're wondering, why you're having those, I feel like you are drawing them to you. That's the feeling I'm getting here. So I think going into the future, you may be experiencing hardship, or at some point you're going to experience it again. And then you'll go through this moment of healing. And that healing will bring you to a better sense of unconditional love and loving acceptance of yourself. So I do feel, even though it's going to continue to be a struggle with your spirituality, because you're willing to continue to work on yourself and heal yourself, which I think includes moving away from certain situations that don't serve you, because I kind of feel like this woman is saying goodbye, You know, I get a sense that you also want to help other people learn how to heal themselves. Some of you might be healers. But in moving forward on this spiritual path, I do feel you coming to a greater sense of self-acceptance where you are gentler on yourself and others in that process, where maybe you realize I've been kind of hard on myself. I've been maybe expecting a little bit too much. Let me just pull some additional cards for you guys. Your energy has been a little bit harder to read than the other two readings so far. So I'm just asking, what's the most important spiritual guidance? What message will help guide this person the most? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you do keep, you know, I feel like you're drawing good people to you right now, but the thing is, you do keep drawing conflict to yourself. You keep attracting conflict into your life. And that's probably why you got this message from Hope about starting to see the good in yourself more clearly so that you can attract people who will reflect that back to you. You may have had a lot of haters, people who have made fun of you or just pointed out what they felt like were your flaws, people who constantly put you down or argued with you. And there was a lot of conflict. And Faith is saying, you know, if you focus more on loving and accepting yourself, it could be also that you have a lot of critical thoughts in your own head about yourself. Now, if you're already thinking negatively about yourself, you know, then you're going to draw to yourself more of that. So start focusing on the things in your life. You know, stop focusing on the negative. Just focus more on the positive. And yes, there is positive. It's almost like I hear some of you saying, well, nothing's positive. But that's not true. Obviously, there are positive things in your life, and there are wonderful positive things that you bring into the world. You know, it's like the rest of the message I get here is that it's like you want to find this calm, centered place where you feel contained. I feel like some of you might also be introverts, and it's like you enjoy life more when you're alone, because when you're alone, you don't have to deal with the haters. You don't have to deal with other people's energy that might be putting you down. And then when you do interact with people, it's like you almost always experience it in a negative way. And it's like feel like you get stabbed in the back and people are out to get you. It's that kind of thing. You always pick yourself up and dust yourself off. But you also are always kind of looking for retribution. You know, you're always looking at, well, is this person who hurt me going to get what's coming to them? Are they going to get their karma? Well, rest assured, you and these people and everyone else in the world are going to get their karma. I mean, it's just going to happen, whether or not you see it or whether or not it emerges in some other area of this person's life that you're not aware of. Yeah, they're going to get their karmic reward. We reap what we sow. So if they have been truly mean to you, then they're going to experience something that balances that out. They're going to bring the same back to them like a boomerang. Although it may be in some area of their life, like I said. But I don't think it's doing you much good to be focusing on how this person's karma is going to come back to them. Although it's human nature to think about those things. And it's definitely human nature to want someone to suffer the consequences of their bad actions, right? But I feel like maybe a more positive and helpful mindset for you might be actually to focus on building your own karma. Think about what you want to reap or harvest and sow that. So if you want to have more positive experiences with other people, smile more, be a more genuine, loving presence to other people, and I guarantee you will start getting more of that reflected back to you. Stop looking for just the negative in other people Start focusing on what's positive in other people, and other people are going to start noticing the positive in you more, and you're going to be more aware of it, because probably they already are noticing the positive in you, but you're so blinded by all of this negativity that you're just not seeing any of that. So, I mean, hopefully that made sense for you. That was a little bit of a tough love reading, so maybe for some of you that didn't resonate at all. If so, I'm sorry. Maybe you can pick one of the other readings and it might be more accurate for you. But you know, I know that there have been times in my life when this has been the reading that I needed to hear, you know. So I'm just saying, you know, it's nothing to feel bad about if you have been in a negative mindset. We live in a world that kind of encourages that. All right, so guys, I hope that you enjoyed that, or at least got something beneficial out of it. I love you guys, and I will see you later. Bye. Hello to everybody who chose Linden Pod number 4. So we are going to be looking at what is going to transpire. What do you need to do to experience a new surge of spiritual growth, your next phase of spiritual growth? So the first thing we get here is self-care. So what does that mean? It can mean so many different things. It can mean taking care of yourself in the way of providing yourself with good nutrition, with moving your body, getting exercise so that you feel vitalized. It can also mean taking breaks when you need breaks, engaging in your spirituality, seeing your doctor on a regular basis, you know, just doing good preventative health care, managing your money so that you don't get into a crisis moment about your money. It can mean a lot of different things. Let's just ask the tarot if there's anything specific regarding self-care that you especially should focus on. Okay, taking care of your emotional needs, I feel like. Yeah, with the 8 of Cups. Okay. I feel like self-care for you guys, a lot of it is taking care of your emotional needs. So maybe engaging in some therapy, or just, you know, making sure that you have supportive people around you that you can talk to and process your feelings with. And I also feel like good self-care is not taking on more than you can handle. I feel like there are some things that you're wanting to start in your life, a new phase of your life, a new project maybe, but you're walking away from a situation that's been pretty emotionally difficult. So it could be that right now you really need to pace yourself as well. Like I said, taking breaks when you need them would be really good for you. And just being aware of your emotions. I feel like the Empress is very connected to creativity, so you might want to connect with art, music, film, you know, like visual art, like painting or whatever, in a way that helps you to understand your emotions better as well. Let's see. Yeah, and there might also be some situations which you know that you need to move away from because they're not good for you emotionally. But there is something, it could be a person or a situation that keeps drawing you back. For some of you, this could be addiction. So self-care might be, you know, like being involved in addiction recovery so that you're not relying on substances in order to cover up your emotions. You know, if all you can do to help you cope with your emotions is turn to a substance or a certain maladaptive behavior, then you're not engaged in good self-care. Yeah, I feel like you just need to achieve more of a sense of emotional balance right now. So whatever that means to you, you know, having building up a more supportive network of people, focusing your energy on those people who are uplifting and supportive of you, and kind of distancing yourself from people who are not. And maybe for some of you, actually, you know, going to therapy might be a good act of self-care right now. So let's see what else we get. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory. But yeah, I mean, maybe every day, just take a moment each day or keep a gratitude journal. But you can do a gratitude meditation. In fact, let's do one right now. Think of a person, a situation, an experience. Think of something for which you are grateful. And as you're thinking, focusing your thoughts on that thing or person or situation for which you're grateful, that moment, maybe it's a memory that you're grateful for. Take a slow, deep breath inward. Hold at the top of the breath. Slowly and fully exhale. Hold at the bottom of your breath. And let's repeat that breath 3 times as you continue to focus on what you're grateful for. All right, think about something else for which you're grateful. We're going to do 3 of these. Take a breath again as you focus on what you're grateful for. Breath 1, let's start breath 2. All right, and allow your thoughts to center on something else for which you're grateful for. Let's take a breath in. One more breath. Okay, so we just breathed gratitude. So that's something that you can do. All right, read about spirituality, learn from the wisdom of others. So this is pretty simple. In order to achieve spiritual growth, maybe find a book. Maybe there's a book or a certain author that's been calling your name for some time. Or maybe you have a friend or acquaintance who you view as being spiritually evolved and you want to talk to them and learn from them. I think most people would be very open to that. If you said, hey, I really admire your spiritual growth. I would like to talk to you about it, just have a conversation. You have to be mindful of not draining that person, that's not what this is about. But like just engaging in an earnest conversation, letting someone know that you want to learn more from their experience. And then also reading books, watching documentaries about spirituality. I feel like even on YouTube, there's a lot available regarding spirituality. Maybe you want to learn more about the chakras or learn about reincarnation, some esoteric subject, or maybe it's more about learning about Buddhism or a particular spiritual path. So just learning about spirituality would be a good pathway to spiritual growth for you at this time. And then finally, what is the lesson in this situation? Be thankful for the lesson. So whatever you're going through in your life right now that might be difficult, and you're really struggling with, why do I have to experience that? It can be helpful to just think about, well, what is this teaching me? Is it teaching me about my sense of strength? Is it teaching me about integrity? Maybe it's teaching me about endurance. Maybe it's teaching me how to have good, solid boundaries with other people that respects both myself and them. What is the lesson? What are you learning? If you're having a health scare, maybe you're learning that there are certain things you haven't been doing to take good care of yourself. All right, so let's see what else we get for you guys. I have this archetype cards, teacher. So you all are wanting, part of the thing was about reading about spirituality and learning from others. But I feel like the reason I chose to use these archetype cards is because I think, one aspect of spiritual growth can just be in appreciating certain aspects of ourselves more. Yes, you all are probably people who like to seek out knowledge from other people, but I feel like you also are needing to acknowledge right now that you are actually someone who's pretty smart. Like even if you seek out someone who you feel like knows more about something than you probably have something to teach them as well. So it's just kind of like knowing your worth, knowing your wisdom, and knowing what you have to offer the world. So yeah, acknowledge your abilities as a teacher. And then I also feel like an important aspect of spiritual work is being more comfortable with our shadow. So what is the shadow? The shadow is the part of ourselves, or those parts of ourselves that we want to disown. Those parts of ourselves that we would rather like to think that they don't exist within us to begin with, right? So have you ever been like really destructively angry at someone and maybe even hurt someone in the process? A shadow would be when you do not want to even accept that, or you would just prefer other people not know that about you. Some people, though, can become really overly identified with their shadow and start to think that that is the truth of who they are. It is not. When the light hits us, we cast a shadow. So if we want to be in the light, the shadow is going to exist. Both of these things work in tandem. The shadow is just what it is. But we can't overly identify, or we should not overly identify with the shadow. I've said this in the other readings. I like to say this, the shadow does not lead us. We go in whatever direction we're going, and the shadow will follow. But we get to choose our pathway. We get to make our choices in life. So for this teacher archetype card, the shadow is manipulating or abusing students, teaching negative traits and destructive skills. Now, I don't know if that resonates for you or not. For some of you, it could be just that your shadow is that you don't recognize that you are someone who has wisdom to give to other people. Another shadow in terms of seeking out spiritual knowledge from others is similar in that sometimes people are too ready to accept what other people say is the truth, or like, oh, this is the only way you should do this sort of thing. But ultimately, we have to trust our own wisdom, right? So our shadow might lead us to believe that we don't have enough wisdom to really choose our spiritual path for ourselves. But we do have that wisdom. Learning from other people is important, but going within to the wisdom that is already inherent within you is also very important. So let's see what else we have. Learn something new. Wow. There's so much here about learning. So this might be, you guys might just be thirsting for, you're hungry for spiritual knowledge right now. So go for it, like whatever grabs your attention, just learn. Learn, but also be mindful not to just accept what someone else has said as the ultimate truth. Because, ultimately, we need to take responsibility for our own spiritual journey. Someone else can't do it for us. They can maybe guide us a little bit of the way. But if we have someone else telling us every step to take along that journey from start to finish, then we're really just going on their journey, right? It becomes not our own journey at that point. So let's see, we have a spirit guide card, and then I'm going to do a tarot spread, so please don't click away too soon. Mercury, open communication. Get a weight off your chest. Speak up with love and be heard. So let's see what the book says here from Mercury. We just had a Mercury retrograde recently, unless you're watching this way later down the road. But of course we have those regularly, so who knows. Mercury's always going retrograde. Communication is so difficult, right? I feel like all these Mercury retrogrades really reflect that. That's just part of our experience in humanity, I guess. We are not always so good at communicating. Mercury is the Roman god of messages and communication. In Greek mythology, he is known as Hermes. He has often been depicted with wings on his feet, representing his capacity to be swift and carrying a caduceus, the same healing wand that Archangel Raphael is known to carry. As well as overseeing communication, he oversees the planet Mercury. Big surprise. When this goes retrograde, which means it appears to go backwards when seen from the Earth, communication can be delayed or difficult. We can call on Mercury for help with loving, honest, and open conversations, divination, and any form of expressive art such as writing, poetry, and journalism. He can also help us heal miscommunications that have caused distress. Maybe some of you are learning something new about how to communicate more openly and effectively. Extended message. Open all levels of communication now. Important messages, information, and insights are being shared, and also in terms of knowledge being shared. You may hear from an old friend or family member or have an opportunity to finally understand a loved one you've not had an easy time with. You may be able to clarify situations where you feel you weren't heard properly or were misunderstood. Get things off your chest in a loving way so that you can clear all the roads to love in your life. Listen to. Communication is a two-way street. Mercury is here now to allow you to hear clearly and be heard. So we communicate and we listen. We teach and we learn. So a lot about two-way communication, how knowledge and information flow in and out. All right, so let's just look and see what your all's spiritual journey has been. You're hearing my cat Coco meowing in the background. If you're not a regular viewer, just to give you a little tidbit of info there. So we're going to be looking at the past, the present, and the future of your spiritual journey. We shuffle about 3 times. I'm going to do 7 cards, and I'm just going to read them upright. Well, we start out with a couple of major arcana. The World, the Magician, 5 of Wands, 7 of Wands, 8 of Pentacles, 4 of Wands, and Justice. Okay. Well, I feel like because we're starting with the World card and we're ending with Justice, which actually relates a lot as well to karma, I feel like this is actually starting out pretty good for you guys because, you know, whatever we put out into the world here is what we'll get back eventually in the form of karma. Sometimes it takes a lot of doing good deeds, sowing love, so to speak, before we start to see the fruits of that come back to us. So anyway, but in the past, I feel like you, spiritually, you found yourself in a very blessed place. You were on top of the world. You felt very loving. You felt very loved. You felt like you had everything you needed in life. Things were going very well. And with the Magician card, I feel like you were very in tune with how to manifest good things for yourself. But then we have the 5 of Wands. So there was some sort of conflict. There was some sort of disruption. Things were going really well. Spiritually, you were feeling like, wow, I really know what I'm doing. And then came conflict. Then came some sort of lesson. I think for you guys, a spiritual lesson. There's something threw a monkey wrench in your spiritual journey. You may have felt yourself, this is where we are right now, this is the present moment, you may have come to feel yourself on guard. You know, maybe you're feeling like you can't trust people, maybe you feel like other people are against you, they don't agree with your choices in life, and here you are trying to continue along your journey and achieve the goals that you've set out for yourself. But this person has something to say about it, and that person has something to say about it, and this person has something else to say about it, and everybody has something to say about the choices that you are making in life. And I think for some of you, this is leading you to kind of be stagnant. You know, you're just like, well, I just want to hold on to the gains that I have made in life, because you've made a lot of progress in life. And you're like, I don't really know how to move forward right now because there appears to be so much opposition. Going forward, though, I do feel you with the Eight of Pentacles, you know, really getting back in touch with your spirituality. And again, it feels to me like for you guys, it's a lot about manifestation, or just knowing that putting good into the world, putting certain energy into the world is going to allow you to receive back the kind of energy that you want. Some of you might even be involved in witchcraft or spell work. Not everybody, but, you know, maybe also just like law of attraction type thing. But I feel like whatever, you know, maybe you're feeling kind of stuck right now because there's a lot of conflict going on around you. A lot of people who don't really like the choices that you're making in life. But I do feel like you're moving into more of this place of self-confidence and self-worth with the Eight of Pentacles. And you are realizing that, hey, actually, despite what other people might say about it, I know that the spiritual work I've been doing is actually of great benefit. And I am actually really helping people and helping the world in some way. And I feel like as you continue to own your power and own your sense of worth and your skills and your abilities and utilize those skills and abilities, you are going to be aligning more with other people who see the world more in the way that you see the world. And I feel like you are going to be reaping some karmic rewards for the way that you have handled this whole situation. Because everybody has wanted you to do things in a certain way. Like there might be 7 different opinions about how you should do things. And I feel like you have felt stuck, or you're feeling stuck right now because you don't want to disappoint or hurt any of these people. But ultimately moving forward, what you're realizing is that you really have to, again, go back to this self-care. Take care of yourself. Learn how to put your own needs first. Like they always say, you put the oxygen mask on yourself first. I feel like that's what you're learning how to do moving forward. You are taking care of you. And in doing that, you're finding yourself back to this happier, you know, you're living more joyfully, I feel like, going forward because of that greater sense of self-worth. Let me clarify the Justice card here. We get the 10 of Cups. Yeah, it's just like whatever you've been looking for, the happiness that you've always been wanting. And again, I think it has a lot to do with, you know, maybe finding your sense of family, finding your tribe, finding your people, but whatever it is, the 10 of Cups is kind of like the emotional fulfillment card. So whatever that is for you, we have here depicted a family enjoying a picnic. And if that's what you've been seeking, then I feel like you're going to get that. For some of you, it might be something else, but your ultimate emotional reward, that's going to come to you because of how you've been handling the challenges that you've been presented with in life and all of the opposition that people have come at you with. Yeah. So let's just ask on a final note, what's the most important spiritual message that this person needs to have right now? Wheel of Fortune, 2 of Wands, Knight of Pentacles. I feel like take it slow and easy, but there are so many opportunities that await you. The world was at your fingertips before you felt it. You felt like you had achieved the world, like you had almost achieved that emotional contentment, and then it was taken away, or you lost it through some sort of chaos or conflict. I feel like you're just being reminded the wheel continues to turn, right? The wheel continues to turn. Sometimes in the way that destiny unfolds, we take a turn for the down. We take a downward turn for a bit. That happens sometimes in life. I feel like you're being reminded of your powers, again, your ability to achieve that world experience, again, whatever that is for you, the culmination of all your hopes and dreams. So whatever those are, think for a moment, what's the culmination of all of my hopes and dreams? What would I most like my experience of living to be like? What would that include? What would it exclude? And I feel like making sure and steady steps towards those goals is going to get you exactly where you want to go. You know, we have the Knight of Pentacles, the Eight of Pentacles. There's a lot of earth energy here. You know, just stay grounded and take one step at a time. Keep moving forward, and you're going to get to where you're wanting to be in life, spiritually and otherwise. So I hope that you all enjoyed that. I hope that was meaningful and helpful for you in some way. And of course, I will see you around. Bye, guys.